All right, I think that's enough. All right, I'm gonna fire it up
All right.
in three, two, one. All right, it should be going live. Let me know once you see the stream, and then we'll go.
Yep, we're good.
All right, sounds okay.
Well, it's loading. Hold on.
Mm.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. It sounds fine.
All right, cool. All right, so we'll start in three, two, one. Hey, Summoners, it's October 20th, 2016, and welcome to episode 8 of Summoner's Sift, a League of Legends podcast. With me today, I have a wonderful human, Projector.
Hey guys, glad to be here once again.
And the Benson, that's me. Contractor's out, he got a job, which is great for him, very happy, but it's been a little stress on his time, but he'll get back in the swing of things, or fire his ass and hire somebody else, but, you know, it is what it is. So how's it going, man? How you been?
I'm good. I finally got a new laptop because my old one was cracked in half and on the casing, and well, I'm never getting a plastic case laptop again. And then I also got my Smurf back into gold promo, so I'm just gonna finish those off soon and hopefully just park that account in gold 5 as well, so that I can get my my rewards. And just hold off for another 17 days.
I'm gonna have to do that same thing on my Smurf because my Smurf doesn't have Maokai, so you get the champion too. So it's like,
Yeah.
cha-ching, give me the money.
Yep, gonna do the same.
So what have you been playing on your Smurf? What have you been playing primarily?
Well, since I'm actually trying to get it up now and not just using it to play with whomever, whenever, and learn new things, I've actually been tryharding. So I've been focusing. I found out that my Vi right now is my new Nocturne. And she's really good right now in general, but just the way that my understanding of the map that's changed between playing Nocturne and Rek'Sai has really helped me with her, because I know how to use her pre-level 6 and actually post-level 6 when she gets that huge spike from her ult. So I've been having a lot of success with her. I have like a 60% win rate right now, and it's just going really well. So
That's awesome, man. I've been continuing the Lee Sin experiment, which has been a blast. I'm getting actually pretty good at him. I think like my Lee will actually be legit. I can actually play him in like as a real champion next season. I'm pretty excited about that. And I've actually been playing a little bit of Master Yi lately.
yeah, I saw that.
I think Master Yi is actually pretty good right now, which is kind of funny. Like, because I think the way the jungle meta is kind of shifted, where the more people gank, like the gold and experience is really, really good in the jungle. And it feels like if they, especially at like the lowish MMR that we play at, where if you go to gank and like it doesn't go well and the other jungler just keeps farming, you fall like way behind, and Master Yi like punishes it hard. So like if they pick one of those really popular junglers right now where there's all these Lee Sins like that are coming out because of Worlds, and you just continue to farm, by the time you come out of the jungler, you're like 2 levels ahead of him if he just fails all over the map, and you just delete people. And that's pretty much been my experience. Like I kind of just piddle around in the jungle, and then I come out like after the second set of buffs and just get a double kill in some lane, and then it's like, okay, well.
Well, I will caution you only in that while he is strong now, I know that Riot has explicitly stated that they're trying to get away from power farmers in the jungle for the next season, and they're changing the way that works. So Master Yi, Shyvana, and some of these other power farmers that really need a spike later,
Yeah.
Nocturne will see it too. Those that fight for 6 really quick, they're going to have some issues coming up, and I'm hoping.
Yeah, we'll see.
Kick them out of the jungle.
We'll see. They've said that in the past, like with Feral Flare, and they try to nerf those things. I think, I actually had this conversation on Twitter earlier where I think that the jungle is very self-correcting in that. So, like, when those really early game junglers become very, very strong, like Lee, Elise, Rek'Sai, like in solo queue at least, not in competitive play, because it's virtually impossible. Like once you get a laner like way ahead. In solo, in pro play, they like strangle you into death. But in solo queue, I don't know. People don't like scaling is king, and sort of like when those junglers like kind of fumble around and goof stuff up, the champions like Master Yi and Shyvana like become very, very strong because you just outscale them, and like by the time you come out, like you do a ton of damage and they fall off. So they don't normally end the game fast enough for you to stop you. It'll just take longer, you know.
Yep. Yeah, and you just have to be a little bit more intentional about how you farm, especially with some of these changes to the jungle, and that we've talked about before and the way that it's going. So
yeah, we'll see. Yep. So, all right. So this week, you know, assassins, right? Like that's the big hoopla. Like, oh my gosh, assassins are coming in. That's the big thing that they've brought out. So, initial reactions. How do you feel, just overall, not getting into any specifics? How do you feel about the assassin changes?
I like the assassin changes, particularly I love the camouflage and invisibility distinction. I really love how Riot handled that. Not a fan of having to relearn wards again, but
so kind of run through that real quick if people haven't actually seen it. So I know they've changed like there's two different kinds of stealth now, right? Like
yeah, so camouflage is closer to what is basically what Evelyn has currently. It's the way her kit has always worked. And so they refer to it as strategic stealth. And it's basically it's invisibility outside of a certain range, but once you come within a certain range of your enemy, they can see you, and you have an indicator that shows that they can see you. Mm-hmm. Rengar and Twitch will have this type of stealth post rework. And which means that basically once you're within a certain range of your enemy, they'll be able to see you, not fully see you. I mean, they'll see like you're out. They won't see you fully as a champion as if you were completely unstealthed, but they'll still be able to see your outline and know that you're there. And then invisibility now is the actual invisibility, and they can't see you regardless of how close they are to you. Champions like Shaco, Kha'Zix, they'll have this. Wukong uses it. LeBlanc possesses it. And the way they kind of worked this is invisibility effects don't last long enough for their users to move from one lane to another, but are well suited for combat maneuvering. So that's kind of the way that they've sorted invisibility. And it's really important, and Akali mains will love this. Invisibility is no longer seen by pink wards. If you are invisible, you are actually invisible now, and pink wards will not counter you.
I mean, I think that's great because Akali for a while has had that problem of like they have to bounce her around the counterplay. So like if Akali, you could kind of, I know a lot of people, I mean, this is why she's good in solo is like if you just drop a pink ward, it turns Akali off unless she's like crazy fed. But it's really hard for her to get fed if the laner knows like as long as I have a pink ward, she can't all in me, you know. Yep. So I think that's a good change personally, and I also feel like, you know, speaking as a Rengar player, we've kind of talked about this before, that inadvertently changes Rengar's R to be less toxic to the game. I feel like it's fine. Like, I think it's okay.
No, Rengar's R, the reworked R is actually, I think, amazing for both. Like, I think it works really well for Rengar, and I think it also gives the other team a way to actually play against Rengar and have a good time.
Yeah,
you know, like it's not so oppressive and feeling miserable the whole game.
I'm actually, so I guess, all right, so that's a good segue. Like, let's go right into Rengar because Rengar's my boy. Like, I love him. I haven't played him in a while because he hasn't been very good like recently, and the meta kind of got away from him. But I like the changes. Like, I'll start off with that. Like, I like the changes to Unseen Predator. I've said before, like they need to focus him around the bush mechanic, and giving him ferocity out of the jump is awesome. You know, like the fact that you're encouraging him to jump, you want a bunch of jumps, like that's what people want to see out of Rengar. That's when he's fun, like that's when he's neat, is when he's jumping around, and like everybody thinks about that out of Rengar, right? Is like the bush jumping mechanic. I like that they changed the ferocity. I like that it doesn't. Although personally, I personally liked the like mini game of like stacking up on camps beforehand, and like it did. I know this is like kind of a meme, but like it did separate the good Rengars from the bad ones. Where
knowing how to utilize that ferocity was a huge part of playing Rengar.
But I mean, I think managing his ferocity is still going to be really important. It's just in a different way, right? So it's not going to be a planning thing. It's actually in combat, which kind of plays into how Rengar is supposed to work. Is like, hey, he's supposed to like kill somebody. Like that's, he's supposed to fight. And then I'm tentative on the changes to Bone Tooth Necklace because I think like I would guess, I think a lot of newish players have no idea what Bone Tooth Necklace does currently. They don't even know that it's actually in the game. I think like for the first couple of games that they play Rengar, they don't even realize like that it's important. Because one of the key things of Rengar is that you have to get that leap range like quickly in order for him to be very, very good and to scale.
Isn't that like 11 stacks or something like that? Is it,
yeah, it's earlier than that. I can't remember the exact number, but it's so early-ish on. I mean, like I said, I haven't played him for literally half a season, but he has become somewhat dependent on that leap range, and like taking this out and just giving it to him is great. And then like sort of nerfing the bonuses that he gets from Bone Tooth Necklace. Although, like, I don't know numbers wise, like again, I'm not one of those people that can look at like the number on the necklace as it stands, because it's only going to be like 5. And it has to be, I think, unique enemy champ, so he has to kill each one individually, which is a very subtle like thing that they did, where they don't like it that you would just kill the same dude over and over, which is exactly how Rengar worked. Is like you would find the weak guy. I mean, it was very lion-like, because what you would do is you would just kill the weak, like one of the herd, over and over and over. So that's interesting. Like they're trying to get you to spread it around, although it's going to be really that bonus better be good, because
and here's it's great. It's 30% at full. I think you get 30% extra AD or something like that. Like it's significant. And the hunt, if you win the hunt between Kha'Zix, like if you kill him again, if you kill him twice in a game, for the 6th kill, you win. For the 6th stack of Bone Tooth Necklace, you get like an extra. It goes up to 42%.
Okay, so that's neat. So we kind of Rengar always kind of got the short end of the stick on that, because he just maxed out his necklace, whereas Kha'Zix got an extra ability, like, which was sort of unfair. I like
really good.
Yeah, I like the changes to his Q. I think his Q is like really good. I think the changing it to like an arc, like sort of skill shot, and where it kind of hops is really neat. I think it's probably more fair. I think a lot of the people that played primarily Rengar and like one-tricked him will be very upset about how his Q works now.
Well, I like that it rewards player skill a little bit more, because it is a skill shot. And it does give him, because if you don't hit anyone with the first part of it, it gives you a small gap closer. And so, just when they're out of range of you and you don't have a bush around, it helps you secure kills too. I like the way that Q works now a lot more. I think it rewards more skill with him.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I'm very happy with the way the direction they're going in the Renwark. Again, I'll have to play him to sort of understand if I like the way he plays now. I like the ideas. I think that a lot of people who one-tricked Rengar, though, are going to be really upset about the way the Q has changed, because it's still an auto-attack reset, but the way that it worked before was like, it did a lot. Like, it was a lot of damage very, very quickly, and the buff to the attack speed immediately after was very, very strong. Yeah. And you would build him around it with Tiamat and things like that. So
well, and the thing is, though, with the old Q, you really needed to manage your ferocity stacks, but this Q works a lot better, I think, when you are building your ferocity in the midst of a fight.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think this one is. I think because of the ferocity changes, it demanded a Q change. And I think this was the best thing they could have done for it, personally. Yeah. I really love it. So
yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be great. Yep. So the W battle roll, I keep hitting the button here is where it keeps playing. So if battle roar, basically the same, very similar, except it's either introducing this like gray health mechanic to Rengar, where he like regens sort of like off of this, right? Like that's kind of how it works. Like he heals off of damage he's taken.
Yes, he heals 50% of the damage he's taken.
Yeah, so this is they're trying to get rid of the old like tank Rengar sustain, which was what made him. He's really difficult to balance in the top lane because of that, because his W is mega strong and gives him a lot of bonus stats. And it was also like free sustain, so you would max W, you're super tanky, and then I get a free heal. And it was wave clear, like all built into one, So it's a good idea that they're change his ability, because W in its old form was just not, it was hard to balance. And like he was kind of hurt in other parts of his kit because of it. So I'm glad that they changed it. It does suck that he lost all of the MR. But I do think the fact that he removes alt CC when he's at 4 stacks is pretty cool.
And prevents incoming ones for another 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, so I
Right.
guess what they're trying to do is make it more like a roar instead of like jump into a bunch of guys and push W.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what it used to be. It was like, oh, just jump into dudes and push W and good things happen. Everything's fine. And it didn't make
This
a lot of
is more
sense.
like a morale boost, which makes the heal make more sense. It makes all of it make more sense.
Yeah.
Like in the movies or the cartoons, like when the hero does that triumphant shout and like all
Yeah.
of a sudden he gets all his strength back. I mean, that's what this really seems like it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good.
The bowl is the same,
Matt.
which I think is great. I mean, they may change numbers or something on it, but I basically say the bowl is exactly fine the way it is. It's exactly the way it should be. Leave the bola. Everybody likes the bola. Don't change it. Nobody feels like bola's BS or anything. You can dodge a skill shot. It's okay. But the only reason that the bola was annoying was because of his R, right? So they've changed his R. They've done a bunch of things here that I'm happy about, where they flattened the move speed out and made it a lot. It's 40% like period now because of the bone tooth necklace not doing what it used to do.
Yep.
Which I like a lot because it's going to make that first R, and it's a lot longer. It is weird. I guess it makes sense that he can see the nearest champ. So now you kind of, Rengar doesn't get a bunch of free vision, kind of like he used to.
Yeah.
Which is probably good because actually that was one of the reasons he was like sort of big in pro play for a while. Because in later game like fights, if you just need to know where, you just push R, and now you have perfect vision of everyone on the map.
Yep.
Also, the addition of the critical strike is pretty sweet because man, nothing feels better on Rengar than like jumping on somebody and like critting the crap out of them, because like that was like, I mean, that's how you built him, like with static shiv and stuff, and you just jump up and just pop him, I hope that it still feels that way, although with the Q not functioning the way it used to.
It still should. I was watching, I think, Night Blue play it on his stream, and it seemed pretty similar. As long as you hit your Q afterwards, it was okay because you still have the auto reset.
Yeah. So I mean, a little more skill. I think he's going to play it the same way.
And this is, I think, my favorite change is it only reveals the nearest enemy to you, but you can also only jump to the nearest enemy champion.
Right.
So which changes. If someone gets closer to you than the other, then that changes. And so this will reward flanking. This will reward your positioning a lot better as Rengar, rather than just, I'm going to invis and run through your whole team to jump on your ADC. I think it requires Rengar to do a little bit more to get what he wants and to be a little bit more intentional about it. Unless he gets to a bush. If he gets to a bush, he can jump on anyone.
Right.
That is the only, change there. But I love the changes to his R. And the also because of the bone tooth changes, it also lasts a lot longer.
Yeah.
It lasts like 20 seconds. It's
well, that's how long it would last. It was
time.
really long, like when you had a fully stacked bone tooth. So basically, they've just sort of built all those old things with his kit and sort of nerfed his kit a little bit and built all those old bonuses like back in. Because that's when Rengar was really fun, was like when you had all the stacks on the bone tooth necklace and you were just deleting. But the problem is, to get to those bone tooth necklace stacks, you would just delete the same guy like 7 times, and just kill him over and over and over. And like, that's not fun. Like, that poor guy's just getting deleted over and over, and he can't see you and he can't get away. There's no counterplay. So I like, the big thing I like about the R change too, and this is sort of a subtle thing, is that it's not going to change the way he ganks. So like, his ganks are going to be exactly the same because you're just going to run at him. Like, you're just going to run at him, push R and run at him. And that's how he ganks now. So the R change will be very different is like in later game team fights. Like, it'll be very different. But I feel like he almost got buffs for later game team fights where the CC's been removed. You can remove CC off the W. And the fact that his Q is AoE, I don't know, man. Like, I almost feel like what he's trying to do, what he's did in team fights will not be what he does now. Like, he used to just push R and try to kill a guy, right? And I don't think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to be an initiator. Like, you're going to want to go in, like, on the first guy and just sort of land Q on a couple of people and see what happens, I also think you'll build him differently. I think he's going to be a little sturdier.
I see him as he'll assassinate his target if it's a squishy still, but it'll take a little bit more skill. I think he's more of a disruptor, a little bit more. He still is assassin, like, don't get me wrong, but I think they've given him the tools to actually be able to stay in the fight a little bit longer and be more relevant.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like he's
than
a little
just
bit,
delete one and leave.
at least like to me, just looking at the kit, he feels a little more like Wukong in later game team fights. Obviously without the big R, but like sort of similar to the way Wukong plays, where you kind of have to like play him sort of cagey and like move around the fight, and then the W sort of acts as the R, and like you sort of try to get into the fight and then get on their carries and then just like push your buttons and then like hope things go well, right? And I feel like that's sort of how it'll be played. So we'll see.
Yep.
But he's my boy. So I hope.
I was gonna say, I think he was worth going in depth for us because we both like him. He's 100%. Like, I want to learn him more. After this, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, Talon. Like, let's go through Talon really quick because I didn't play a lot of Talon before. I knew that basically if Talon got super fed, he was invisible and he just one-shot people. And he was super frustrating when he had the silence. They took the silence away, and then he sort of disappeared. Like, nobody played Talon anymore.
Yeah.
I think the biggest change that everybody's talking about with Talon is his E. So, like, yeah, he has a bunch of other changes, but I think the big one is his E, and, like, I assume that, like, numbers and stuff, and if you play Talon, I'm sure you understand how Talon works. But I think the idea with Talon is they're trying to make him, like, a push and roam champion, right? Doesn't he sort of feel that way?
Yeah.
And then his E is the big thing that everybody's talking about, which is where you can parkour walls, which is super cool. Have you seen like the videos of like him just jumping over walls? And
it makes him completely like, if you get him an ARAM, you reroll.
Yeah, that's right. He is completely useless in ARAM. Like, there's no walls. What does he do in ARAM?
Where's he gonna? He's just gonna jump off the bridge, I guess. I mean, what can he do?
Can he jump over? So
he can jump over man-made or champion-made obstacles as well. So a Nivea wall.
Okay, but can he jump over turret like remnants?
No, I guess maybe.
Does that count? Like, so can he jump over like a turret to get to somebody? I mean, like,
yeah,
give a man something. Like on.
The only thing I don't like about this is that it doesn't cost him any mana at all. I understand why it doesn't, but like in the late game team fights or skirmishes that happen in the jungle, like Talon is going to be so annoying.
Yeah.
But if you learn where those like, what is it? The boundaries are for like on terrain where you can't jump again on the cooldown. Like, if you know how to play around those, like, you're going to be a master. With that parkour.
So the other thing with Talon, how long is the cooldown like on the E? Like, I know that
it doesn't. It's 1.8. It's like Yasuo E.
No,
it's
it's that short.
Oh yeah. You mean on the terrain?
Like on the terrain itself. So like when he just,
I don't know. I haven't seen any. Like, I haven't seen enough that like anyone has timed it. I haven't seen any numbers.
They said it's very long, right? They say long period of time. So you know what this feels like though is it feels like he's a one-way Kassadin. So like Kassadin back in the day when he was like an ultimate terror it wasn't so much, I mean, the teleport was annoying like in team fights and stuff, but it was his ability to roam that made him super frustrating to play against, because it was like all Kassadin would do is he'd just get dumped on till he hit 6, and then he would just roam bot like out of nowhere and then get a double kill. And it was like, oh, okay, now he's just gonna, now we can't push, we can't have to ward everywhere. And the fact that you couldn't ward against him because he would come from weird spots, like he would come from like, behind your turret, or like he would go over the Baron pit, or like in just weird gank paths. And I feel like Talon's gonna be exactly the same.
Yeah, I will say, if you miss your abilities with Talon, you're dead. Like,
yeah, he is. You are very dead, right?
But if you hit him, it's very rewarding. So it will also. I think all of the assassin changes really reward more skill.
Yep. I mean, I like that. I mean, that's the big thing with Talon, right? He's sort of similar, very similar. I mean, it's just slight changes to abilities, but the big changes is E. He's going to be able to jump over walls, and that's pretty neat. So, I mean, I think that's enough about Talon. Like, he jumps over walls. He does parkour. That's cool, right? LeBlanc is, like, very complicated and confusing. Maybe you could talk... Which, so that's the way she's always been. I always see LeBlanc and I'm like, I don't know exactly what, LeBlanc does. I know that she, like, splits into 2 people and she can teleport and the glowy spots on the ground where she can teleport to. I don't, dodge the chain.
Big chain. The big change with her that people need to really pay attention to, I think, is her R and the fact that she can spawn a clone anywhere on the map and it will just run to the nearest enemy champion. You really need to be watching when LeBlanc hits 6. You need to be watching LeBlanc pretty much at all times. And if she's Mia, like you pretty much can't trade because she could show up from that bot bush. When you're initiating a trade on a 2v2 and her clone shows up, you think it's her, and you blow flash or whatever, and it's just the clone. But you definitely need to play around LeBlanc being missing or currently visible on the screen.
Okay.
The rest of it really is mainly for laning purposes that you need to be paying attention. So I don't think the rest of her kit is for us to go through right now. But that, I think, is the big change that needs to be paid attention to.
Yeah, I thought LeBlanc was pretty close to a good spot. So, I mean, I understand like why they're like doing some tweaks because they kind of have to touch them all, you know. So we'll see, you know. The Katarina changes. She's going to be a hop like a lot more. And they added the daggers thing, which I think looks really cool. Again, that's going to be one of those things we kind of have to see in game. I've watched a couple of videos like of Scarra playing, or like there's one with Scarra playing it, and he like jumps like 10 times in the clip and gets all these resets and stuff. Shield sort of, I think Katarina will still sort of function the same way, right? Like she's gonna jump and like, but the dagger thing where she can pick up a dagger and that gives her another jump, right?
Yes, and
yeah.
What I love about this is, her function is still the same, but there's a little bit more telegraph to it. You kind of know what zones. She's kind of like the zone assassin.
Yeah.
Because wherever her dagger is, that's where you don't want to be, right? Yeah. And so I think it'll reward Katarina players for zoning correctly because her Q, you can learn it really well and predict where it's going to land. And I think that this will reward a lot more skill and planning with her, but it also has some pretty clear windows for you to play either against or play into, or, defend and kind of retreat from. So I like this. I like this a lot for Katarina.
I like the fact that they gave her a move speed buff too. Like when she throws the dagger, the W gives her a little like move speed buff, which I think is cool because I think that champion really needs it. Like, because I think she's supposed to be able to move around fast, not just teleport.
Yeah.
And that feels a little bit better. Some of the other assassin changes, I mean, I don't think we're gonna go too far into those. I mean, they're mostly small stuff, right? Like the Zed change, I think, is worth noting. Like, if Zed kills like an enemy champion, he gains a portion of their attack damage, which is like completely insane in the late game. Like where it's like Zed's scaling is find their Jhin and kill him. So
yeah, pretty much.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, we'll have to see numbers and things like that. Fizz, they're trying to make it so that the further the shark goes. The Akali thing is. I think the big thing to Akali is the change to camouflage, right?
Yeah.
Shake. Yeah, Kha'Zix.
There's only one thing I want to say about Kha'Zix, which I saw on Reddit today. I forget who posted it, but basically his R's passive now gives him a second or two of invisibility outside or when he runs out of a bush. And what they did was basically once they evolved the ult to get that passive, they walked from fountain to river, and when they went into the jungle, they could run completely through the jungle, completely invisible. And that's passive. That's not even activating his ult.
So like, Kha'Zix, we Rengar now. Like, okay.
Yeah, Kha'Zix in the jungle is going to be a nightmare to fight.
That's actually cool. That's actually a cool idea because that makes them very similar to each other, like Kha'Zix and Rengar. Whereas, they were released and supposed to be like sort of these dueling assassins sort of things, and they were nothing like each other. They never even wanted to fight each other. That's not what they wanted to do. Like Rengar was just killing the support over and over, and Kha'Zix is pretty much doing the same thing. Like both of them started fights by targeting like the absolute weakest guy and just deleting him. And Kha'Zix even worse because he's just looking for somebody who's low so he can get the reset. And a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people, again, on newish players, I don't think they totally understand how isolation works. I think new players like sort of understand that it's happening, but they don't know how to play with it.
Yeah, they don't realize that. Yeah, what's going on really?
Yeah, they just know. Oh, I pushed Q on this guy. He takes 1 million damage. That's great. Yeah, I like the Shaco clones dropping 3 boxes.
Yeah,
which is neat. And Echo, they're still playing around with Echo, right? Like,
I just wish all they would do is take away the percent health thing off of his W. If
well,
they
they
would get
took
rid of
the
that, I would be
slow
happy.
away at least, like off the
Yeah,
passive. So I
but
mean,
if he ults back through it at any point, parallel. If he ults back through his parallel converges at any point, it procs the stun.
I gotcha. Okay, and then
at any point. So if you throw your W and then ult back through it, like you've procced the stun.
okay, well, we'll see. Echo's always going to be a problem, and I'm always going to hate him, and it is what it is.
I agree.
So, and then the big other change, right, is the item change, right? And
Yes.
that's them basically removing flat armor pen from the game, which if you've played a lot over this season, you've sort of seen the rise. I mean, although flat armor pen has been good for a while, you've seen the rise of it this season, I think more so than others, with Yomu's and like armor pen's real good, boys. Like flat armor pen's real good. Real early armor pen is just like nuts. And Rengar players have known that for a long time because the Rengar page has always had like tons of flat armor pen on it, like built into it, and then cooldown, so you can just spam your abilities to use the flat armor pen. So now they're making basically lethality, and lethality is it scales with their level. It's armor pen that scales with level on the opponent's level, right? Which means it's less snowbally because like you don't just buy this item and like suddenly you do tons of damage out of nowhere. It's going to slowly build, I guess.
It makes it easier for them to balance champions around is basically what it does.
Yeah. So
and I'm fine with it.
Yep. I like some of the ideas of like Poacher's Dirk changing into Serrated Dirk. I like those ideas. I like the out of combat movement speed that they're putting. I like that they're trying to put movement speed being the thing on assassins, although everybody's gonna be like mobility creep, right? Like
I wonder if Poacher's Dirk is gonna be enough of an incentive to telegraph that you're gonna be doing a lot of invades. Like I wonder if it transforming into Serrated Dirk is gonna be enough.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because that payoff, because you're basically telegraphing, hey, I'm gonna come into your jungle as much as I can. I don't know if that's still worth it. Because that was the issue with the old Poacher's Knife Smite, and
that gray Smite. It was pretty junky, like that thing.
Because you knew what the enemy was doing then.
It's like, it's a Nunu with the gray Smite. I wonder what his plan is.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. Like they're trying this idea again,
and I like it. Like I'm not saying I just wonder if it's going to be enough.
I think the problem with the old gray Smite, especially like the gray Smite was that you didn't get anything when you did it. Like it was supposed to have bonuses, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Like it was like, oh, okay, it wasn't. I think you got like a move speed buff, and I think you got a refreshed cooldown on using Smite. Like it's been so long since I remember that item, but it was garbage. Like it was like, this doesn't matter. It's like it was like nothing compared to the other two. I mean, it was like nowhere even close. So the other item, like, why don't you talk a little bit about the other items real quick?
Well, they removed Locket, and Aegis of the Legion, whichever way you prefer to pronounce it, no longer gives the magic resist aura that it used to, which has given them the chance to rework a few other items kind of around that. But they've added 2 new items, Knight's Vow and Redemption, and then they've reworked a whole bunch of other things, like Maw Malmortius no longer doesn't grant lethality, and they basically said, assassins, don't build this. And Yomu's no longer grants attack speed, but it actually blocks an ability, I think, or an attack.
I know. So they actually took that off. Like that was on the PvP, and they took that away. So now it's just attack damage, lethality, out of combat movement speed, and CDR.
Okay.
And then the active gives you more movement speed. Yeah, they moved it. They removed that a little while. That was probably like insanely broken. The other big thing is I think they introduced the new item, right? Like Edge of Night.
Which new item? Oh yes,
yeah, that's the big one, right?
Yeah,
that one's crazy.
That is huge because after you channel for a second, you get a spell shield. Like As an
Basically,
assassin, that's significant.
yeah. So we actually play ranked fives with a TF main, and he was super frustrated with the first versions of these items, where he was like, "So Yomu's blocks gold card now, and because it blocks an auto, and Edge of Night just gives him a spell shield. Like they can just start channeling it when I ult." And I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. And then they've changed Duskblade a little bit. I think to try to I think they're trying to take it away from ADCs a little. So like we'll see. Because it's like after being unseen, your next basic attack deals true damage. You get out of combat move speed. You get true sight when you're spotted by a ward.
These are some really good items. They're gonna really unbalance a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. So, and again, everybody knows, like, hey, preseason's when it gets real weird. Like, game gets crazy. Most of this stuff may not be it. Some of it may not be in the current form. I guarantee most of it will not be the way it is, like it currently is. That's why we're not going too deep into numbers, just concepts. Like, I like the idea that they're taking armor pen off of Maw because it never belonged there. I always thought it was really weird that you got armor pen off of Maw.
Yeah, it felt weird. Really weird.
It was real strange. And then I like the ideas with Poacher's Dirk Serrated Knife and like adding out of combat move speed to basically all the assassin items. Because now you're not going to be like forced. You're going to get they're basically saying like out of combat move speed is super important for assassins, right? So they're thinking that like kind of like Mobies were really good on Talon. Sort of the same thing where they're like, you really need this move speed. This is what we want you to be doing. We'll see how good that is. Out of combat move speed, especially when it's not tied to something like mobility, like the mobility boots where it falls off like immediately, where it has like a recharge. And it's like not your normal boots. So like the problem with Mobies is like, man, it was good when they were triggered, right? But now like your mobility item is this. Like you can't get Swifties, you can't get. So the idea that you can maybe build like cooldown boots and then get out of combat move speed seems pretty good. So that's going to be fun. I think you're gonna be zipping around the map.
I think this preseason more so than last preseason felt more about just balancing champions, which felt kind of like a normal patch. Really, as much there were a lot more changes than a normal patch, but it just felt like it. I feel like this preseason I'm going to have reason to do a lot of games and try to learn as much as I can before jumping into the next ranked. There's just a lot to learn and new things.
Yeah.
This really shakes things up, I think, all of these changes.
There's some big sweeping changes here. I think Locket being removed from the game is a huge thing. Like, I think it changes support itemization, like, in a massive way where, the aura being gone is, like, a huge buff to some champs, and, like, it's just going to be real weird for a while. Like, I think we might start to see the tank supports actually kind of get dumped on for a while, where, like, now that they're not rushing an item that's naturally good against their lane, that's going to be weird, So like if you're against a Sona and like you need used to be you were building Aegis anyway, so it was fine. Like I'm just building into an item that's good against her. But now I don't know. Like maybe you're not building Aegis. It's not auto buy anymore. It also opens up jungler like itemization, especially like at the higher levels, like in the pro play. You won't always be building the same items over and over. I'm excited about some of the actives on like some of those. Like I like their idea of like, we like Mikhail's Crucible. We like these items that make you do something. Like you push some buttons, like that aren't just a bunch of free stats. And I think that's interesting for supports as well. So
yeah, it gives them more of a dynamic play style than just hit one for your to proc your Locket and save your team.
Team fight's happening. Push the button.
It's more like, who do I want to do this to, and how can I do this? It gives them more choices to make. So and adds some mechanics to some of these supports that just kind of do one or two things. So I like it.
Yeah. So far, preseason looks good to me. I'm and then like all the other introductions of stuff, like, I mean, the Riot's knocking it out of the park with this one, in my opinion. Like they're trying a bunch of interesting things. I'm not sold on like them going back to solo queue and stuff, but like, okay, like I'm willing I get that that's a big thing a lot of people are upset about. So like, hey, I'm in. Like adding replays, like it looks like Riot's not just gonna like rest on their laurels here and just be like, oh, the game's fine.
Yep. When we get when we get sandbox mode, no one has an excuse if they've wanted to learn a champion to not learn it, because you
Yeah.
can stay, you can stay at level 1 and practice your clear. You can do all of these different things now with the sandbox or the practice mode that I think is going to be really awesome. The only thing I'm not really on board with is still the jungle creeps changes, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll accept it. I'll learn to accept it.
I mean, it's pretty crazy, but to think that, like, since the time I've been playing League, basically every meme that has happened about clients, about sandbox, about replays, about just all these things, and they're fixing it all. Like Rengar being cancer, like all this other stuff, like they fixed it all in like one like fell swoop, which is
the
pretty
new
impressive.
meme is that Riot's killing all our memes.
That's killing all the memes, you know. So I'm impressed. Good job, Riot. You know, I'm sure you're listening. Yep. you're one of the 200 people. I'm sure of it, right? So
yes, yeah, that's right. No, good job, Riot. I love these. I love what they're trying to do. I love the directions they're trying to head. They've really done a great job building some rapport back with the community after all the different things that have happened this year. It's just I really think that they're moving in a solid direction.
Way to put up or shut up, you know.
Exactly.
Very nice. So out of all those changes, out of all the changes that are going on, what's your favorite? What are you looking forward to the most?
I think my favorite change is, I'm going to say the stealth changes. I think that is the great in the control ward. I think those 3 things are probably my favorite because I think stealth was almost impossible to balance, and I think this gives them a leeway to do that more.
Yeah.
So I think that's the stealth mechanics are the greatest thing ever.
I'm actually 100% with you on this one. Like, as somebody who's been playing a bit of Eve, and like I really like the way Eve works. She's fun. Like, you get to move around the map, but it doesn't feel cheap. Like, it does a little, like sometimes, because like Eve is a little different where it takes a second for it to trigger, but like it doesn't feel like just busted like Rengar did. Like, where it's just like, you don't see me and now you're dead, you know? Like,
yeah, exactly.
And you know, to an extent, like, the fact that a champion that I really like isn't going to be like based around that mechanic of like super frustration is cool. Like, that's going to be more fun. And like, I also like that they're trying to do something different with assassins, because we all know like how assassin metas go, where it's like, you know, okay, it's assassin meta, like time for ADCs to die. So I like I like the stealth changes a lot. I'm also super excited about a new client as well, because
yeah. Oh, amen to that. Yes.
The client sucks. Like, and having a new one will be cool.
I will say the one thing I do appreciate the stealth mechanic as well is they found a way to do this well without just straight up copying another game. They found a way to do this within a way that fits their system.
Sure.
And they didn't just settle to copy Heroes of the Storm or whatever else.
Right.
So kudos to you for creativity, Riot.
I agree. You know, I'm very happy with all of the preseason changes. I mean, the only one, Plants, I'm still kind of like, you know, but I feel like
the itself, but everything else.
Yeah, all the like, and then I'm sort of worried about this whole like, oh, we're gonna take away the power farming thing. I'm kind of like, what are you doing? Like, creeps are fun. Like, leave them alone. Yeah. Like, but you know, we'll see. Like, hey, you know, I'm sure that everything will be fine once generally it is. I mean, it gets good right around the end of preseason, and after, like, there's always something crazy busted, like right at the beginning of the season, and then it just sort of works out, and everything is fine, and we'll be back playing League of Legends just like we always do.
Yep.
So, all right. So I think that pretty much beats that into ground. Again, as new stuff comes up, we'll talk about it. Hey, if you have questions, if you have input, if you think we're totally wrong, I highly recommend that you send an email to summonersift@gmail.com. Projector will answer it, and we will not talk about it on the... No, I'm just kidding. Like, please send it in. Hey, he will send you a strongly worded email message back telling you, don't send me any more emails.
I'll tell you, even if I'm the one who said it, I'll deny it, whatever you're disagreeing with, and tell you that Benson said it. That's what I'm
No, that wasn't me. All right, so yeah, please send in your comments. We'd love to hear them. Or if you want to hear us talk about something else, please send it in. So, and then on that note, we're going to go into some listener questions, right? So if you don't know, we have a contest every week. Listener questions. One listener wins $10 in RP every week. You know, hey, you want a new skin? You want something cool? Please get in there. Send us a question, summonersift@gmail.com. We take a look. We try to read as many of them as we can. We don't always have enough time, but we do as many as we can, and we we like to pick the best one every week. So, all right. So you want to read the first one?
Yep. So first one comes from Rescued, and she says, hey guys, it's Rescued here. My question this week, how do you think the Assassin rework is going to change the meta? I'm scared that I won't be able to play my beloved Sona anymore with the threat of being assassinated since she doesn't have a lot of CC. And yes, me being assassinated, not my ADC, because we all know who's more important here. I feel like I will need to go back to Leona or start learning Tam Kench. Let me know your thoughts on this. And also, while writing this, I realized how weird the word assassin looks. So welcome to the club. That is a very weird word.
That is a weird word. So, all right. So I'll weigh in on this a little bit. I don't have a ton of thoughts here, but I'll give my quick one. You have to play with the meta, but I think that this has been assassins have existed and they've been Roman bot since like season 1. So if you're not used to dealing with it, I mean, maybe late season 1 when like it was Ash mid, so that's a little different. But I mean, assassins have been moving around the map for a while. So like if you're playing supports, like if you're playing these like sort of like squishy-ish supports, you kind of know what you're doing already, and hopefully like they address this with itemization changes and things like that. The other thing is realize that all of these assassins are being reworked, and for the most part, I actually think they're less likely to just delete a support now, right? Because they're making more interesting. They're not just like tons and tons of damage. So even like Zed, like the classic, like let's go and delete someone, he doesn't want to kill you. You don't have the most AD. He wants your ADC.
Wants your ADC.
Exactly. So although what I will say is that I think that supports like Tom, Leona, I think especially Taric, I think Taric's going to be really good in the new meta. They're going to get better. So like Tom especially, I think Tom is sort of seeing a little bit of a resurgence. People are playing him at Worlds. I think Tom is going to be really good for a while. So if you don't know Tom, you should probably know him already, or at least one of those sort of like, hey, protect my ADC sort of supports. I think, yeah, that's what I would say is like, hey, learn Tom because he's good and, be ready for when it happens.
I think, and to add to this, I think that with a lot of these changes, we're going to see a lot more meta shifts than we're used to, and I think it would be good for you to have two or three tankier supports in your arsenal if you already have some good, more squishy ones and mage supports. I think to have a couple in your arsenal would be really good with all the different meta shifts that are going to happen, so that you just have more options for yourself. And if you play what you feel comfortable on, ultimately, because if you're still winning on Sona now and she's great with you, like you're really good with her, that's probably not going to change all that much. It may before you're used to the changes, but it probably won't change all that much once you get settled in. So keep playing what you want to play, what you have fun on.
That's the nature of the game, right? Like Riot makes the game and they make these changes to make people play different things. That's what they want. They want you to play different champions. They don't want the same, because when it's the same champions, everybody's just resident sleeper in the Twitch chat and Worlds, like 4,000 of them. Oh, look, we see Jhin again. And it's like, okay, like, but then what happens is people complain because then their champion isn't good, So like, what do you want? Like, you want like, new fresh metas where like different things happen, or do you just want to play the same champions forever for always? Like, I personally don't want to play the same champions forever for always. So I think Riot feels the same way. Right.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. So that's that one. Also, I think, all right, so I'll read this next one. So it says, hey guys, Doom here with another question for you. Doom is a loyal listener of the podcast. We appreciate Doom. When it comes to off meta, although as a human being, he's actually kind of
we hate him.
We can't stand him, but as a listener, he's awesome, and that goes true for all of you out there. If you're listening, good job.
You're awesome.
But you're all terrible, okay? So when it comes to off meta picks and champs, if you see that one has a very high success rate right now, Support Zion being one, he's again, Doom's a horrible human being, so this question is like a horrific mess of formatting, so bear with me. So Support Zion being one right now, he says again, do you think that it is worth picking up and trying out for the idea of having it under your own belt and possibly seeing the same success? Or do you think, especially at lower ELOs, that the risk far outweighs the reward due to teammate flaming and such? So what do you think, Projector? Should you be busting out that LeBlanc
Uh,
ADC in solo queue because it's got a high win rate? Like, you know.
I no is what I'm gonna say. And here's why. It's not. I don't care about the flaming or whatever. You can mute people. It's whatever. It's more about what are you really learning by playing the OP, even whether it's hidden OP or not so hidden. I think that it's if you're learning what you're learning, well, the champions that you're good at and learning them more, then you're learning more of the game itself rather than the champions. I mean, if you want to have fun in an OP, sure. Support Scion, go for it. And I think some of them are okay to have in your arsenal, sure. But typically, by the time that someone in our elo notices that something is OP, a hidden OP, it's not going to stay that way for very long. So all this time that you're going to invest trying to learn it, right when you learn it is, and you're finally comfortable on it, is when it's going to disappear and not be good anymore. So stick to, I would say, have fun with it and do whatever you want. But I think if you're having success on the champions that you can be successful on, then do that. Otherwise, you're wasting, especially if you don't have a lot of time to play. You really want to learn one thing and get really good at that, and stick to climbing with that.
Yeah, I think I would say the same. I mean, I think like, hey man, this is a game. Like, you want to go into normals, you want to play LeBlanc ADC. You know what? Get in there. Like, dude, you want
trashed by him. It's a thing.
You want to play new top, even though like his Q like buff doesn't happen off of monsters. You know what? Just get in there, do it. Like, it's all right. Like, do your thing. But like, when you're getting into ranked, like, there's and I hate to say this because like there's always going to be the guy that proves me wrong where he's like, well, I played 80 LeBlanc to Challenger. And it's like, dude, I'm going to tell you something. If you played 80 LeBlanc to Challenger, you could have played a lot of stuff to Challenger a lot easier. Like, 80 LeBlanc ain't what you got you to Challenger. It's you personally that got you to Challenger. So, you know what? If you're gold, maybe don't overcomplicate it. Maybe you don't need to be the support Scion player that saves everyone, or like, I get that there's probably guys out there winning on support Scion. And hey, like, if you are winning on it, hey, who am I to tell you what to do? But like, especially picking stuff up and you're like, you feed like 2 games, you're like, but the win rate's like amazing. I'll go to keep trying it. It's like, man, like, maybe just play a support you can win on. Yep. And that goes to not overcomplicating like champion selection, which we've talked about before. Just pick the good ones, man. Like, pick the good ones that you know how to play. And learn how to play them and play that. Like, there's no reason to be like, well, Scion has a 2% higher win rate than Taric, even though I have 200 games on Taric and a 55% win rate. Well, Scion Sport has 57, so I better pick it up. It's like, you know what, like, maybe.
Well, and off meta, and I'll say this about off meta supports: if you're playing with someone you play with normally as an ADC, that's fine. This is specific about supports, but if
and
you're
solo
ADC,
queue, I think you would preface this, right? Yeah.
Like, we all know that a typical ADC, like, you're gonna be super frustrated with, because you're already at a disadvantage of not being able to communicate really well. Mm-hmm. And if you're playing with a support that they don't know how to play with, you're handicapping yourself a little bit even more. You're gonna rely on yourself to more solo carry that lane, which is okay, but you've got to be aware that your ADC may not be aware of the windows when they should trade because of the kit that you brought in that they're not used to playing with. Yeah. Other lanes, solo lanes, that's different. Jungler, that's different. I've gotten trashed by a Darius jungle. Okay, off meta, it happens. But support, I think, is a little bit more, an ADC as well, because you're playing with another person.
Right, yeah. When you're in a solo lane by yourself, hey, man, if, like, AP Scion is your thing, like, do it up. Like, if you're killing people in lane, like, who cares? Like, I guarantee if you're playing AP Scion and you're 4-0 and like crushing your laner, nobody in your game is gonna be like, man, this crappy AP Scion. If you pick it, like, nobody cares, man. Winning's winning. Like, ride that AP Scion train, carry me to victory, baby. But like, if you're going support Scion and your bot and like you're feeding your face off and your ADC's like, he has a bad day, like, he's gonna blame you quick. It's gonna happen real fast. And like, don't open yourself up to that. It's just like, don't flame people in solo queue. You're asking for them to tilt. Like, you're just encouraging it. Unless you're super confident that you're gonna carry that, like, I would pass. So
yep. So that's our thoughts. Deal with it.
Yeah, deal with it.
Accept it, apply it. You don't have a choice. You've asked, so now you must do.
Right. Yeah. So I think that Doom's question is good, but you know what? I don't want to encourage anybody to play support Scion in solo queue. So I think I'm going to go with, I think Rescued wins this one. I think that like that is a very valid question of like, hey, it's very like current. It's like, hey, you know, assassins are coming. Like, what do I do? Like, my champions don't work. Because I think a lot of people in a lot of roles are thinking that, right? Like, if you're like a mid that can't play mids into assassins, you need to think about your life right now. Like, you need to really think. Like, hey, man, maybe you're gonna have to build seekers like more often than you used to.
Yep.
You know, and things like that.
For some mages, they're gonna learn that Seeker's Arm Guard is actually an item in the game.
Yeah,
some of them never built it.
I 1 out of 20 of your mids versus a Yasuo will actually build Seeker's Arm Guard. Most of them will straight rush that Morello Nomicon and be like, why have I died 7 times? I don't understand.
It's like
Yasuo's broken. Like, oh god.
It's like when I see my ADC build Executioner's Calling against like a Swain. They built it like 35 minutes into the game, after the Swain has already dump trucked all of us. Like,
or like,
it's just so frustrating. Just build the item that brings us all success.
Yeah, if they're bought against Soraka and they never built like an Executioner, it's just like, please, please
do something.
Yeah, so I mean, that goes back. Hey, man, like this stuff is gonna change. Like if you don't like that, like if you don't like change, you're playing a wrong game. Like get out. Because League changes day to day. The meta shifts every day. Riot is constantly making changes to this game. You're playing the wrong game. You're going to live a life of frustration if you want to be like those guys that have like 2,000 games on Garen and are stuck in Bronze 2, you know, and they build the same items every game. Like, I don't know how they do it, man. Like, that is not what I like about League. The fact that it changes, that it shifts, that's what everybody loves about League. That's why it's fun. That's why the game is so huge. So just adjust. So I think that's a totally valid question about, and seeing Tom Kench come back is gonna be cool. Although I can't stand him.
I hate him too.
I hate him too. So all right.
So don't see him top lane. We're fine.
What do you got for final thoughts? You got any words of wisdom you give away to the world before we ever let everybody go? Because I think that's the cast.
No, nothing now except make sure you do some reading before you just jump into ranked with the new changes coming. Don't just jump in and be like, I'm going to learn as I go, and you'll have a terrible time. The more that you dedicate yourself to learning some of these things before they happen, the more fun you'll have when playing the game.
Yep. And what I would say is, hey, man, like now that sandbox mode is going to exist, you don't have an excuse. You don't have an excuse. There's no excuse, all right? Yep. Like, you've done no excuses anymore. Not like, well, if Riot will give me a sandbox mode, I could insect every time. And it's like, well,
now put your money where your mouth is.
It's coming, so you better be ready.
Yeah. You don't have enough time for a full game? Go into sandbox mode. Practice those ults into Qs. Because I can't stand when Elisa ults and then misses the Q.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, that's our cast for this evening. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Again, you can follow us a million different places. We have a million different places you can find this podcast. iTunes, which we need reviews on. The one review that we have is super funny, but it's the lonely one, and we need more reviews. Like, we're not even high enough to get a star rating. So if you listen, if you enjoy it, if you hate us, I don't care. Like, still leave that review. Tell me you hate me. I'd like to hear it. So... get on there, review us. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on the website, summonersift.com. We record every Thursday at roughly 6 o'clock Eastern. It's generally a little later because we can never get started on time. There's always something crazy. But right around that time, we try to get going. We also have listener games that we play all the time. People are always on. So please come on by. We'd love to have you. So that's it for this evening. Have a good time. Play some
Take care, everyone.